was one interesting night on MTV. Dickie, there's a call for you in your dressing room. Hello?
Hello, Richard. It's Michael.
Michael?
Michael Jackson.
I said, Michael, we're actually live. He said,
I know, I'm watching.
what can I do for you, Mike?
Can I make a request?
I said, what do you want? He said,
anything by me.
and he giggled, and I said, okay, great, I've got to go. Michael Jackson wants to know if we can play something of his. And everyone looked at me like I had grown an extra head, and but we did play something of Michael for his viewing pleasure, which was quite a moment.
I was in year 9 in 1987 when MTV first hit Channel 9, so I watched Richard Wilkins as a teenager, very formative time in my life.
I think I'm a television presenter, radio DJ. Sometimes when I'm coming through customs, I put down juggler or trapeze artist or something just to be a smart ass.
And I remember when I first started working with Dickie, I said, hey, you recommended these songs and these albums, and I just want to thank you for it. He's like, never heard of that as artist in my life. He did so much back then. So yeah, he's a true inspiration.
MTV Australia was the first international affiliate of MTV, the juggernaut that started in the States in 1981 and completely changed the way music was represented. And we started MTV in Australia, the first show April 16, 1987. Yeah, I was the front guy for MTV Australia. By the time 87 came along, bands like Duran Duran, In Excess, really embraced the music video as an art form in itself. So, watching this stuff was as much as enjoyable as listening to the music. So, it was a perfect storm. My musical influences started when I was 7. My parents got me playing the violin, which I proved to have some talent with, all of which got derailed when I started listening to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Hollies and the Who and the Supremes, and I really stopped wanting to be a lawyer and just wanted to play in bands, which I started doing. Sort of followed a career in music with my bands in the late 70s in New Zealand. Came to Australia in 1980 to seek fame and fortune and glory and all that. We toured with Grace Jones, we did Countdown, we released a couple of songs which started to get some airplay, which was good. I actually had a run-in with the legal system, so I then proceeded to continue as a solo artist. My mum saw an ad in the paper, hotshot promotions manager wanted for new FM station. So off I trotted to Today FM and talked myself into the job. I said, I don't know how to do promotion. Mum said, oh, darling, don't be silly, you've been doing it all your life. And before I knew it, I was the promotions manager. There was a big photo in probably the Sunday paper of this guy, Tom Freston, who was the boss at Viacom in the States. They were all out on a boat with the Channel 9 executives and whatnot, MTV coming to Australia. As I understood it, Mr. Packer had been on a buying trip to the States and done a deal with Viacom. At that time, free-to-air television didn't go through the night. It used to have advertorials, or it just used to stop. I think it was Mr. Packer's belief that we could sort of flick a switch and this MTV thing would play through the night. But it became apparent that it wouldn't be that easy and they would need to produce something here. And that's why they decided to do an Australian version of MTV. And I rang my agent at the time, Shirley Pearce, who looked after Russell Crowe at the same time, and said, well, who's hosting this thing? And she said, well, Russell's going up for an audition, I'll see if I can get you in there as well. It was one of those moments in time when you knew that, I'd collided with the right opportunity, and so it came to pass.
Good evening to you. Thank you for your company and welcome to MTV.
Yes, right.
We've got Noiseworks coming up very shortly too. Of course, we're asking you to tell us tonight what you think of the issue. Should the age of consent be lowered?
I remember it being extremely exciting. It was also a lot of hard work, and it was new territory for me, but it did feel good, albeit slightly overwhelming. At the end of every thing, I used to just say, it sounds very needy now, was that all right? I'd be seeking sort of, I don't know, some sort of pat on the back to let me know that it was okay. I wish I knew then what I know now. I was obviously so nervous. I was speaking so quickly. Hi, you're watching MTV tonight on the show. It was like, shut up, slow down. The director needed to know what you were going to say so that he could push the play button 5 seconds before you finished your read. So everything was written and scripted, but the auto cue in those days was often paper going over this sort of bright light thing, and which occasionally used to catch on fire. It was so hot. So you'd sort of see your script burning before your very eyes, literally. So Sawley always said he taught me some wonderful tricks, apart from always write your own stuff. But when you throw to something, and here it is right now, Duran Duran, girls on film, you're watching MTV. He said always look down at the monitor so that if they're slow rolling it, you're not sitting there like a dummy, watching a blank screen. That seems so obvious now, but I was learning on the job. We were all learning on the job, and they were wonderful times. The basic MTV show would go to air 10:30 till 10, 11, 12, 1:30 on a Friday and Saturday night, live to air from the big studio at Channel 9 in Sydney. And we would have live guests, live bands playing. Well, it was all live, and lots of video clips. So it was very highly stylized and produced. And unlike MTV America, we kept it pretty true to the music.
Tonight on MTV, world premiere videos from Deborah Harry, Mental as Anything, The Little River Band, former Kiwi superstar Mark Williams, and we go behind the scenes of premiere videos from Aerosmith, Motley Crue, and Cher.
Over lunch one day with some of the guys from Sony Music, Saul came up with a plan to have bands actually playing live in the studio, but of course we didn't have the production budget to do that properly. And whilst they were very supportive, it costs a lot of money to do big major productions. So we decided to do what I thought we could call it live in the props bay or something. But we basically had more acoustic-y performances. MTV in America loved what we did, and they picked it up and called it Unplugged. And the first one we did, the deal was done on the back of a beer coaster, was for Daryl Braithwaite. So we had Daryl on live to air on probably the Saturday night, simulcast with FM radio around the country, and the record sold out of every store physically the next day, Sunday, Monday, and it went to number one on the charts straight away. That was a moment when we all realised, oh, there were actually a lot of people watching us. It was a great feeling knowing that there was a considerable audience out there, which was reflected in the charts. If we went big on something, you'd see it lift up, and to this day people say to me kindly, wow, you influenced my musical taste when I was growing up. And sometimes I'm so sorry about that.
One of the things we're doing tonight is determining which will be the Australian Video of the Year to be named at the VMA Awards, the Video Music Awards. Well, thanks for catching up with us. I know you've just come off stage and you're anxious to hit that Big Dipper, mate, so thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you. You mean you have a video for Speaks and Specs?
Sure we do.
I know which one it is too, it's terrible.
No, it's the one in the bloody plane hanger,
No, the one with the paisley pants. Oh yeah, the one in the airplane hanger.
That's the one.
Yeah.
We had a 3-year deal, which was then renewed, and we had another 3-year term, and at the end of that second term things had changed immensely. MTV was launching its own channel here in Australia, so there was no place for us. It was sad to let go, but that I had no recriminations. There was never any gnashing of teeth or anything. I'm certainly enormously proud of pretty much everything we did during those years. I think MTV had a massive impact on music generally. You wouldn't have those wonderful videos like Michael Jackson's Thriller, like a-ha's Take On Me, like Duran Duran off to Rio. The people like Russell Mulcahy and Richard Lowenstein and all the other wonderful movie makers who toiled and honed their skills and learnt their craft. Certainly a lot of bands owe their owe their existence and their success to the exposure that MTV gave them. It's obviously a financial decision and a pretty big and sad financial decision that MTV, which was this icon, I love brands, and MTV in my mind was right up there. It's not anymore. I think it became so fragmented by its own choice with the MTV this and MTV that and all the spin-off channels and the shows they produced. I wouldn't say it lost its way, because it certainly was feeding an audience. I don't know how many people are sitting down watching video clips on MTV right now, and I think the kids are finding stuff where they find it themselves, not necessarily spoon-fed, as was the way in the good old days.